Getting ready to cross East Capitol Street again. See, life turns and returns to normal when you get a couple blocks away from the Capitol. I can remember when I was a child back in 1957, 58, 59, walking these streets, walking from Alabama Avenue and 51st Street in Washington, D.C. to National Airport, see the airplanes, walking through the museums, walking through the halls of Congress. Even if you were a child, you could just go in and walk through the halls of Congress. You know, the patriotism just exuded at that point. Once again, everything I was being told was a lie. My mother told me that, my father told me about it, that there's three things in life that you can't give up, son. You can't give up your rights and liberties under any circumstances. You have to keep fighting. He told me never back up for your paycheck on Friday and give your boss an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And he also said that always respect your John Hancock. I couldn't understand that until 50 years later. I actually looked at the Declaration of Independence and found out what the real meaning of that was. The meaning is that John Hancock, the signature is everything. That's a binding document. That's why all the founding fathers of this great nation risked everything they had. They risked their lives, their families, their properties, and their possessions to form a new form of government, of the people, by the people, and for the people. And for what? We celebrate a false government now, 250 years later. The government is of corruption, by corruption, and for the benefit of the American Bar Association and its corporate agencies and agents and attorneys. The American Bar Association is the largest criminal monopoly in the world. And the members of the House and Senate know that they have a binding agreement to make sure that our citizens do not inadvertently give up these rights and liberties based on forged and false documents. But the Supreme Court we just left, they denied 99.9999% of all cases filed, and yet they make you pay their agents, the Bar Association members, and the lawyers, and their corporations. Some of these appeals cost tens of millions of dollars just to get to the Supreme Court, and what do they get? They get an unsigned order. It says denied by one of the 350 clerks of the court who have no judicial authority or background, and those clerks refused to produce their oaths of office. They refused to produce their judicial bonds or their clerk's bonds. They refused to produce the electronic signatures required under international law, because every document you file with that court has a security number, and every security number has it's a securitized document that's filed with Wall Street. This is the evidence that you need, but no one will produce these documents. Without that electronic signature, you can't track that document, and therefore it makes our courts no more than a corporate court of inquisition, where only those who belong to the Bar Association and are affiliated corporations have any rights or liberties whatsoever. All the rest of us are nothing but pawns to be stepped on, have our property stolen and our businesses stolen, our children stolen, our fundamental rights to access to the courts from the Fourth Amendment, First, Fourth, Fifth, Seventh, 14th Amendment rights stolen. They allow our probate court judges and clerks of the court to steal billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars every year through probate fraud with forged documents such as they've done for Sherry Evelyn. And you go to the Attorney General's office, well, they're all part of the system. They're all bars. They all belong to the Bar Association. That's part of the accredited American mafia controlled court system. So all I can do is keep doing what I have to do. I should be back home in about 6 minutes. As you can see, there's not a lot of activity out here today. The roads appear to be pretty clean. There's Anacostia, and you're up here, right in front of you. There's a naval facilities here in Washington, D.C. And we get up here a little farther, you'll see Homeland Security. You'll see Bowling Air Force Base, which is not an Air Force base. I used to love coming down here and watching airplanes landing and taking off. They scared the hell out of you, to be honest with you. But some of them would fly over top of our house, because we lived on 14th Street, so low that you'd think they were taking the roof off of it. So this is what the real Washington, D.C. looks like. I've seen the 11th Street Bridge torn down and remodeled 3 times. The Pennsylvania Avenue Street Bridge torn down and rebuilt twice. The Wilson Bridge torn down and replaced. There's Washington, D.C. in the background. X Drive, South Capitol Street. I take South Capitol Street because you never know what will happen. If you go past this point, traffic can stop and you'll be tied up for 20 minutes to a half hour. Bowling Air Force Base and the Anacostia Naval Station. I should be back home in about 5 minutes. I would ask anybody who has or has been victimized by court corruption and court injustice, falsified court rulings and judgments. See, that's the big thing. All of this comes down to the courts, especially the Supreme Court. You can't allow cameras in the building anywhere. You know, they don't want any of these proceedings copied on the record. But they had to be all proceedings from this point on. That's why I'm running for Congress this year, so that hopefully I can educate the people and tell them that we need to make sure that all proceedings in all state and federal courts and all hearings be audio and videotaped, so that the victims, you know, in Virginia, you can't even, you had to hire a court reporter to come in and record that. And all of these other states, they have electronic recordings. They call them blue boys. They record everything that happens in the court, and that cuts down on the corruption and the fraud by corporate attorneys immensely. But even that, as far back as 1995, Prince George's County had a complete upgraded court reporting system, all electronic, all video. And I have video that shows it, where they actually cut my transcript, my video transcript. They cut it by over an hour based on timestamps I received from the court transcriber's office. So that's what started all this. These judges who do not, they lie, and they support lawyers who lie. So, you know, since then I've been living in a land of inquisition. Most of us are living in a land of inquisition. We're living in a terrorist government headed by Donald John Trump and his cabinet members and the Republican Party that has been brainwashed. I'm running as a Republican candidate for Maryland's 4th Congressional District, and I was just put forth into the general election on Tuesday, the 23rd of June, for Maryland's 4th Congressional District for the 4th time. And I'm proud to say I didn't invest any money whatsoever. The Republicans gave up on the 4th Congressional District seat, and they just, so I've been running for 4 times. I've gotten through the general election, and then all 4 times combined, less than $3,000 in total expenses. Not because I wanted to, but because nobody will support a candidate that stands up against corruption in our courts and our national corrupt state. So I know people think I'm crazy for making these videos, but I've asked several judges, if you think I'm wrong, please file charges against me and allow me to go in as a defendant and have the jury trial. I have been forced to court in 4 different cases as a defendant, and I have won all jury trials. 4 jury trials. But as soon as I win them, they go on appeal, and the appeals court sends it back to the same court, and then that court there and its judges just quietly dismiss the case. So what good is a court of inquisition when it destroys the rights of our citizens so terribly? If you get a chance, visit secretjustice.com, georgemcdermott.com, Maryland Court Watch News.com, George, the number 4 Justice on YouTube, and the Citizens Coalition for Restorative Justice, which I am working on setting up to assist all victims of our out of control, corrupted court system. See, that wasn't that bad. Here I'm back in Oxon Hill, Maryland. I'm heading back to my home. For 32 years, I couldn't borrow a penny on my home. I couldn't. No court would allow me to have the title, which was a cloud was put on it by the mafia organization of Gilbert Saperstein and his associates. And once again, it's all corporate fraud. It's all corporate obstruction of justice. They're backed up by now about 20,000 videos I have produced, and roughly 22,000 docket entries and 130 court cases. Coming back on my street here. This is a saving grace. My church, my God has allowed me to do this, and He's protecting me. So Jesus Christ is my advocate. Anybody who wants to challenge Him, step up and do what you think you can do. But I'm going to follow the 10 Commandments and the rule of law. I'm not going to be brainwashed by some corporation trading as the United States of America, Inc., and or its agents and assigns. Well, I'm back home. This will be the end of the trip. George McDermott signing off from the land of the scam and the home of the fraud. Forest Heights, Maryland. God bless and have a good day.